What's up, podcast listeners? We are so glad to be here with you today. This is Drew and Andy here. Andy and I, if you have not heard us before, we are Casselberry, Florida residents and local pastors here who desire to have a casual conversation on this podcast for the good of the people of Casselberry about Casselberry related issues and including guests and friends who are involved with Casselberry. And speaking of friends and guests, we've got two in the studio today.
Oh, we do. Some very special people who are part of our live studio audience. So the laughter you hear today will not be canned; it will be real. We have Drew's beautiful wife Becky. Say hi, Becky.
Hi.
And my handsome son Jonathan.
Hello.
That's right, Andy. We've got a great crowd. We've got a great time together today. Andy, what is going on in Casselberry, or just with you personally?
Yeah, well, let me just share something this happened this week. Our little podcast is gaining a little bit of notoriety in a couple of ways. I don't know, Drew, if you subscribe to the Altamont Wekiva Springs Life magazine, but in there this week, or this month, or this quarterly. There was an article on Casselberry and about the Citizens Academy that you and I are going through that starts soon. And in that article, which provided some fascinating information about the city, there was also quotes from our two podcast hosts, you and me, about why we're excited about the Citizens Academy. So I thought that was a nice little shout out to what we're doing with the podcast.
And cool. Thank you, Altamont and Wekiva Springs Life. That's great.
That's right. And the other thing is that I was at a meeting yesterday morning with some of our city leaders as we gather every month or so to talk about some of the things that are happening in our city. And one member of that group, before the city manager and other leaders, as we were talking about communications within the city, Vicky Martin, our guest from the previous week, said how much she appreciated what we were trying to do on What's Up Casselberry as we act as kind of ambassadors for the city, was a word that she used.
Wow,
and
what a great compliment. Yeah,
I thought that was a good phrase that kind of captures what we're trying to do, that we're trying to be ambassadors within the city. Would you kind of say that word defines what we're trying to do a little
Absolutely.
bit?
That is totally our goal. We desire, as we said kind of at the top, our goal is to be communicating about things that matter in Casselberry. We want people to have conversations, to ask good questions, and to connect on things that are happening in our city that are good, that are positive, even things that are challenging. We have a desire to be very kind of down the middle. We've discussed our goal in this is not to necessarily direct anyone a certain political affiliation, but we just want people to know, be informed, and be inspired to go out and make the city better.
Absolutely. Some great things happening in the city, and we want to shine a light on those and celebrate those. Drew, as I look at you today, and our listeners won't be able to hear this, but I see you have a City of Casselberry pin on.
I do.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, I'm very proud to be a Casselberry resident. In fact, it's funny, my wife and I have been staying at my wife's parents' house for a couple of weeks as we've been renovating a part of our home. We're very thankful for the ability to live just down the street in Winter Springs, but have kept the Casselberry pin close to my heart as a reminder to pray for the city, in which I'm a part of, as well as be able to talk about Casselberry with residents and just folks on the street. So it's a good little reminder. I got it from Dean, one of the employees of Casselberry. So thanks, Dean. Well, Andy, for our Casselberry in the News segment, this is an opportunity to learn about kind of what's going on, get the scuttlebutt, so to speak, of things that are relevant to citizens in Casselberry. Our news segment today is, of course, we're recording this on Friday, March 13th.
Dun, dun,
Friday
dun.
the 13th. So it's only appropriate, I think, that we talk about kind of the dominant theme of the day, which is the coronavirus.
Sure. I mean, this has been in the Casselberry news. It's been in the Central Florida news. It's been in the national news, and probably every newspaper on the planet has been talking about this coronavirus. And, honestly, just the last 24 hours, and I realize that we'll be broadcasting this episode a couple of weeks later, so there will have been lots more changes. The last 24 hours have really been unprecedented. Even Disney World closed, sports are shutting down. It's been a wild time, and I don't remember anything like it in my lifetime. How are you doing and feeling, and what are you thinking through all this?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the question that's being asked. What do we do? How do we feel? Right, and what are some next steps? To be candid with you, Andy, I have had the chance to think about this, talk to folks from various walks of life, and really think, number one, stressing just the importance of taking care of yourself in terms of cleanliness, washing your hands, not putting yourself specifically in an environment where there might be the opportunity to be sick. However, personally, I think that a bit of this conversation tends to be overhyped, right? There's this fear of we don't want the worst thing possible to happen, which then drives perhaps more fear and more concern. And so I hope that we're not going to belabor this point, but I hope that one of the things that just comes over the next couple of weeks and months is that citizens in Casselberry, as well as Central Florida, statewide, nationwide, that we would calmly come together. We would seek to serve and care for our neighbors, and work together in this. Living in Florida, we have the privilege of, I say privilege, we have the opportunity kind of every fall to experience hurricanes, right? Natural disasters. And it's amazing. I know my wife and I on our street where the neighborhood comes together and checks out, hey, do you need anything? Do you have this? Do you have that? And really working together in unity. And frankly, I think this is another opportunity for, as citizens within the local city. And that's our plan, the Taylor's plan, is to come around our street and our neighborhood and say, hey, what can we do?
So when are you hosting your Corona party?
Doors open. We will not have maybe everything we need. Toilet paper seems to be an issue right now, but come on over. We're happy to
There's some funny memes going around about that. Yeah, I would just echo that as well. I mean, as we've talked about previously, I grew up in England, and one of our kind of national mottos, it seems, is keep calm, carry on. So I kind of really want to adopt that as much as possible. But one of the things I realized about a leader and a pastor and an influencer is that how I respond to things often sets the tone for others. So one of the things that I've been reminding myself of recently is that if I can have a non-anxious presence about things, if I can go about my business in a thoughtful, helpful, solid way, then hopefully we can bring some stability to a world that doesn't seem too stable right now.
Very well said. And you, Andy, is a deep waters run still kind of guy. I see that even in your face today. Yeah, that's really, and that's needed.
You see
now.
Deep waters in my face. Is that the virus? Is that one of the signs?
No.
No, but I tell you what, I did go for a run this morning, and I go to run on the old Deer Run golf course, which I hope they don't develop, just selfishly because it's like a little pocket of natural beauty in the midst of all the concrete around here. But I caught the sunrise, right? And I was reminded every single day for a long, long time, billions of years, the sun has risen. And it will rise again tomorrow and the next day and the next day, and we'll be okay.
Amen. Well said. Well, that's been our Casselberry in the News segment.
Having said that, we're 2 weeks behind. What's really happening is people listen to this, so it could be much worse, but I think we'll be all right.
All right, Andy, let's take a moment now to answer a question that one of our listeners has submitted to us. We would love to hear from you. If you have a question, a comment, some way to interact with us, we've set that up for you. We have a Facebook page, an Instagram page, as well as a podcast feed, all titled What's Up Casselberry. So you can leave a question, a review, a comment in any of those sections. And we have, like we said at the top, a special guest today, Jonathan. What's going on, man? Do you have a question for your dad and I?
What inspired you to make the podcast?
Wow. We did not plan that. We did not prep that in advance. Great question, Jonathan. Very thoughtful. Andy, all you, sir.
What prompted us to start a podcast? I love that. That's a softball that we can hit out the park, hopefully. We love our community and we believe in our community. And we believe that Casselberry has had a reputation that is poorer than it deserves over the years. And we believe that through some great work from our local leaders, from many organizations and nonprofits and civic groups and churches, Casselberry is one of the best kept secrets in Central Florida. There are some incredible things happening in our community. But the problem is many people in our community don't know all the great things are happening and therefore aren't taking advantage of them. So as you said earlier, we want to be bridge builders. We want to be ambassadors for the great things that are happening so that we can continue to build our city and support our city and serve our city and create a bright, bold future for our community.
That's a great answer, Jonathan. And just to add,
Andy,
yes, Andy answered it. Jonathan asked the question. I'm complimenting Jonathan on his thoughtful question.
I know we look the same.
The thing I would add as well, as you are a young man and my wife is here, we as millennials and the next generation, on kind of a jokey but non-jokey way, more and more people are engaging on social media as well as listening to podcasts and other ways, as opposed to perhaps, years ago where it was your primary source of news would have been the newspaper or reading, more printed materials. A lot more people are receiving communication through either social media or audio. And so we just thought, hey, let's jump in and try to communicate exactly what Andy said, what's happening and the good of our community in a way that people can digest and process it.
Same message, new medium.
All right. So for our sponsor today, our first original founding sponsor is Platinum Signs. Platinum Signs, we are so thankful for you. Platinum Signs is a local business right here in Casselberry. It's a premier business specializing in high quality signs
that will help your business.
That's right.
Become better at business.
They'll print for your business. They'll promo your business. Platinum Signs, in all seriousness, started in 2006. Our good friend Yesha Patel, a Chamber of Commerce member, and her husband have founded the business. And they say this in their statement: whether you need a flag, a banner, a monument sign, branded stationery, business cards, networking booth items, or promotional products, we have you covered.
We need a monument sign. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I like the idea of having a monument.
I do, yeah. Well, how about welcome to Casselberry, home of the What's Up Casselberry podcast?
And then maybe we can have your face and like a little thumbs up.
There we go. I like it. Yesha, we'll be in touch. Yes, thank you. And make sure you check out Yesha Patel and Platinum Signs, are today's sponsor. Thank you very much. And if you are looking for us to highlight you and your business or your individual purpose or passion, we would love to talk to you. You can comment in our What's Up Casselberry Facebook, Instagram, or podcast feed. Well, for our special guest interview, we're going to roll right in. Today is a unique day. We had some trouble finding a guest, but we have, just due to schedules and life circumstances, we've got a couple of guests for the next couple of sessions. But for today, we thought, hey, what better way than to start with the basics? Let's go to our roots, which is one of our co-hosts. I've had the privilege of interviewing, having a conversation, putting on the hot seat one of our original founding co-host, Andy Searles. So Andy, glad you're here. I hope you're ready for this.
I am. Let me just change hats, and I will take off my podcast host hat and put on my special guest hat. Okay, excellent. That's better.
All right, you feel more comfortable? Good.
No, I don't feel comfortable at all. But that's another story.
Well, Andy, you and I like to talk all the time and use cultural references, television, internet, just funny memes that we see. And one that comes to mind over and over again for both of us, much to my wife's chagrin, is the show The Office.
Becky doesn't like The Office?
She's not a fan, and it's probably the only thing I don't like about her. Otherwise she's perfect, but it's Well, I'm working on it.
Okay, all right.
But for Andy, for our first question, I just felt like it's appropriate. I know you fairly well, and I kind of have an idea on this question, but which character would you say that you relate to or you're most similar to in the show The Office? I think our listeners would be interested to know your answer.
That is a great question. First, let me give a little bit of explanation because I realize The Office isn't to everybody's liking. So let me tell you why I like it. I grew up in England watching sitcoms over there that have a slightly more satirical sense of humor,
Yeah,
right?
dry.
It's
Sure,
a
dry.
little bit dry. And so honestly, truth be told, I didn't find that in sitcoms when I came to the States. They were a lot more kind of slapstick and that kind of thing, which, you know, I've grown to love and appreciate. So when The Office came on, I really connected with it because I like that dry, sarcastic kind of humor. So that was kind of where I became a fan of the show. Who would I most be like? Honestly, I think everybody would like to say they're a little bit like Jim, like cool and witty and funny. The reality is those who work with me would probably say I'm a little bit like Michael. Tracy my wife would probably say I'm a little bit like Stanley, like mumbling around the house, kind of doing my thing. My kids would probably say there's a little bit of Dwight's nerdiness within me. So
Jonathan's over there nodding.
yeah. So, honestly, probably at different seasons of life and at different times during the day, I can play many characters at different times. I often seriously, tell people Tracy and I will have been married for 20 years this April.
Wow.
And I say that during that time, Tracy has been married to about 6 different husbands, right? All the same guy, all me, but several different iterations of me. So, I probably played various characters over the years.
That's really well said and interesting. And it's funny, I was going to call you out if you did, in fact, declare yourself to be a Jim, because, I agree. I think most of us would like to be that. But I thought that was a very honest assessment. So well said, Andy.
I'm not a Packer.
No, definitely not.
I'm not a Jan.
No.
Very low tolerance to drama and craziness.
Not a Kelly, California.
Although I can be kind of weird sometimes, so maybe.
Well, that's been our Office podcast segment for today. Andy, I really do have a lot to ask you, and really am excited to just have the chance to sit down and kind of talk on the air about some things. You've been a leader, Andy, for a long time here in Casselberry and have faithfully served the community. What originally kind of got you? What got your feet wet? How did you initially kind of dive in and get engaged with things that are happening in our city?
Yeah, so I've always had a keen eye on the community, and there's something that was built into me in my formative years that really believed in community and in our life together and things like that. But I think one of the defining moments for me when it comes to our city here in Casselberry, I think it was probably about 2012, 2013, when 60 Minutes, the national news magazine, did a segment on our community about homeless kids in Seminole County. And initially, I understood later that they were supposed to go and film that down by Disney, in the shadow of the theme parks, there's all these needy kids. But Osceola County says, no, we don't want that negative press. Seminole County said, okay, we'll let you in, not quite realizing what they were letting in. And so Scott Pelley, the host, came down and filmed this segment about children in need living under the poverty line with no food. And as I was watching that clip, I realized that where they were filming from was the very same school that my daughter was going to and my son would soon go to, right? And it really kind of, one, broke my heart, but secondly, it kind of woke me up to say, hey, if you're someone who says that they care about this community and you need the national news to tell you about a problem that exists 2 miles from your house, something's wrong there. And so honestly, the very next day I went to the school and said, hey, I don't have much resource. I don't know much, but I saw it. I want to help. What can I do? And from there, all kinds of things have steamrolled and developed for me.
That's amazing. I totally think that it was not an accident that
Sure.
that was part of your story, seeing that on the news. And I think the encouragement to everyone, just like Andy said, is that regardless of your gifting, your abilities, your maybe connections, a willing heart and just a desire to do something to better the place in which you live. And sure enough, you could elaborate on kind of what the steps were and helping provide that tangible need for food, but then that's opened other doors.
Yeah, it has. And I mean, I think, once you step into the arena, you see all kinds of opportunities to serve and get involved. One of the driving philosophies of my life, primarily as a Christian, secondly as a leader, is a little phrase that someone shared with me when I was, again, in my formative years, and it's find a need and meet it, find a hurt and heal it. So as a Christian, I'm always on the lookout. What's that need that I can help? What's that hurt that I can help heal? And so I've kind of developed a radar for that. So started with helping with the schools, and to do that, we had to pull some people together. And once we pulled people together, we identified all kinds of other needs, because we realized that the lack of food was a symptom, and we didn't just want to treat symptoms, we want to solve problems. So solving problems take you over here, over here, over here, over here. And before you know it, you're pretty involved in meeting some cool people and trying to tackle some significant problems.
Well said. That's great. So as a leader, right, you are definitely a leader and advocate for the city. What are some attributes, maybe character things that you're looking for first when identifying folks to kind of come alongside? And then what are some strategies to equip others to then go out and engage in the city in these different avenues?
Sure. So that's a great question. That's a technical question.
It's a question I think of very often, frankly.
Let me answer the first part of that.
Yeah.
What am I looking for in a leader? For me, I think one of the first traits I'm looking for is the tree of humility. And I say the tree of humility because there are lots of branches that come off that tree that are birthed because a person has a level of humility, like servanthood, right? Sacrifice is another branch off that tree. Personally, I don't do well with big egos. I don't do well with selfish motives. So I'm always looking for people who have a measure of humility. So that's one thing I'm looking for. I want to know people who have an availability and an openness and a willingness to learn. I'm not necessarily looking for people of resource, because I think that there's lots of places to get that from. But if someone's available and they want to use their life to make a difference, then I think we can work with those people. And my story is that once you just kind of raise your hand and you say yes, it really puts you on an incredible journey where the resources, the learning you need just kind of comes. But it all starts with that availability and that desire to say yes. So in terms of people, those are some of the things I'm looking for: availability and humility. Your next question was about how do people get involved?
Yeah, kind of equipping people, right? As you are a leader, not necessarily other leaders, but folks that maybe are sharing some of those kind of gifts.
Sure.
What are some ways in which you kind of train, equip, encourage people to go out?
Sure. Well, this kind of leadership that I try to bring in the community and within the church and within some of the other projects that I've kind of entrepreneured and a part of, it's not the kind of leadership that has a playbook, right? So it's not like I can say, hey, Drew, I want you to do this. Here's step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, point A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? Because it just doesn't work like that. And so I think the kind of leadership that we want to offer and want to extend is more caught than it is taught, right? So the reality is, I want to say to folks, hey, come along with me, right? So that forces me to become less controlling, more trusting, right? It causes me not to self-isolate and kind of become this lone ranger leader. It says, hey, let's build a team. Let's talk together. Let's figure it out together. Let's do it together. Our church is called Church Together because I value this idea of togetherness so much, because it's when we start to do things together and tackle problems together that we grow together, right? Leadership, in terms of what we want to offer in the community, is caught, not taught, and therefore we need to be relational leaders. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. In fact, one thing you said really struck me as I think about my own story. I always heard this phrase for many years: one step ahead, one step behind. That surrounding yourself with people who are one step ahead of you in terms of leadership, their career, their goals. And in that one step ahead, we're learning. You mentioned being willing to learn and grow as a leader, as an individual. And then one step behind, having folks that you are mentoring, that you are kind of pulling along, encouraging you to go with. And Andy, not to embarrass you, but you were kind of one of those people for me.
Too late, already embarrassed me.
I'm the one behind, and you have really helped pull me forward, and I really appreciate that, my friend. So that's great. Hopefully that's been some encouragement for our listeners today.
Yeah, I think to the listeners, I mean, what the world doesn't need more lone rangers, right? We need to figure out how to do it together. Right? So whatever you're doing, invite someone to come along on the journey with you. It sure makes the journey a whole lot more fun as well.
That's right. And I think it's a perfect segue then to ask regarding your son, being we've mentioned him multiple times. He's here. Jonathan is here today. What do you hope to instill in Jonathan and your daughter, specifically in terms of our city, regarding being a part of a citizen, whether it's in Casselberry, if they settle down here, or they move elsewhere and settle in another city? What do you hope to instill in your children, kind of, so to speak, caught from you in regards to how to be a productive, involved citizen in wherever they live?
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, truth be told, there's a lot of things in my life that I hope they don't catch from me. Great question. I think I want them to know that people matter a lot. And how we treat people is absolutely crucial. Not just before God, that as a pastor, I believe that everybody is of sacred worth to God, but for the betterment of our community as well, right? We really do need each other, and we're made for each other.
And we need all ages too. I jump in, right?
Yeah.
You're never too young to be a part of helping. Where you live.
So I think listeners, people matter, and then because people matter, how can we let people know that they matter, and how can we enhance the lives of those around us? I mean, obviously there are all kinds of hopes and dreams that I have for my kids, all kinds of prayers that I pray for them every day. But I think this community development stuff begins when we start to value people. So I hope that they catch from me that people really matter.
Well said. Excellent. Well, this is just a portion of the many facets of who you are, Andy, as a person. But I think for the sake of our podcast, we'll wrap it up there for today.
I am indeed a complex person, and we can talk for hours.
Andy, as we close, how might you people connect with you that want to reach out to you? Obviously, our podcast, What's Up Casselberry.
Sure. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Andy J. Searles. I'd love to become your friend. I mean, you can follow me, but I'm not that interesting. But I'd love to become your friend. So join me there. You can email me if you want, Andy@ourchurchtogether.com. come see us at church.
Yes, please do.
I pastor a church in town called Church Together. We meet at 10 o'clock every Sunday.
Where?
Viruses permitting. And we meet at the rec center in Secret Lake Park, Casselberry. Come early, take a walk around the park. Just seeing some of the beauty there will make worship easy for you as you walk in. And I'd love to greet you and love for you to become part of our family there.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Andy, for sharing and being a part of our conversation today. All right, for our closing inspirational moment today, Andy has a quote for us. And Andy, take it away.
Okay, let me just put on my host hat again. That was my hat noise. All right. So our quote today, and I just need to clarify who this comes from, because our quote today comes from a guy called Bob Goff, who has become a speaker, an inspirational speaker on an international level. And he's written some great books, Love Does, Everybody Always, which I just think are great and would highly recommend them. But there is also, I understand, a former mayor of Casselberry by the same name, Bob Goff. So this quote from Bob Goff is the national speaker Bob Goff, not to be confused with the former mayor of Casselberry, Bob Goff.
I see. That's helpful. So this does not specifically relate to our Casselberry Bob Goff. It's a national speaker.
We just needed to clarify that. Why we needed to clarify that is a story for another day.
Absolutely.
But this is the quote. Bob Goff, national speaker, says, "Embrace uncertainty. Some of the most beautiful chapters in our lives won't have a title until much later." And I love that. And I love that especially in this day that we're living in today, as we wonder where the coronavirus is going to take us and the effects that it will have. There is certainly a lot of uncertainty. And if I'm honest, I want to hide from that. I want to, was it hunker down, bunker down? What is it they say when hurricanes come?
Yep. Hunker down.
Hunker down. I want to close the door. I want to keep the world out. I want to turn on my Xbox and just kind of do my own thing, because I want to hide from uncertainty. But the better way is to say, hey, I don't know what's going on, but this is going to make a great story one day. And we're part of history. And history will look back on this moment. And when history looks back, I want to be found faithful. I want my life to make a difference. I want to see uncertainty as an adventure, as a challenge. And so Bob says again, embrace uncertainty. Some of the most beautiful chapters in our lives won't have a title for much later. I would add, live your best story now, so that when you have that title later on, you can be proud of the story and chapter you've written.
Excellent. Well said, Andy. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode of the What's Up Casselberry podcast, a casual conversation about our community. This podcast today was produced by James Bittner, music by Jeremy Birdsall, graphics by Christian Moscosko. Today's sponsor is Platinum Signs. For more information about this podcast, please check out our Facebook page, Instagram, or podcast feed, all with the name What's Up Casselberry. We'd love a like and subscribe to our podcast. We'd love you to rate and review us. And until next week, have a great week.